Number 6. Exploring shipwrecks. Tobias Friedrich is an underwater photographer who has explored and captured many sunken vessels around the world. He has visited wrecks in places such as Egypt, Malta, Norway, and Papua New Guinea. Friedrich is fascinated by the mysterious history of shipwrecks, and he says he enjoys seeing how nature takes over man-made structures. He also says that he respects the wrecks and does not touch or take anything from them. He uses special equipment and techniques to take high-quality photos in the dark and murky water. Shipwreck hunting is a profession that involves finding and documenting sunken ships, sometimes with the goal of recovering valuable or historical artifacts. However, it is also a controversial activity, as some people argue that shipwrecks are a part of the cultural heritage of the ocean and should not be disturbed or exploited. There are also legal and ethical issues regarding the ownership and preservation of shipwrecks and their contents. Some of the most famous shipwrecks that have been discovered include the Titanic, the Bismarck, the Mary Rose, and the USS Arizona. Some of the most recent discoveries include the USS Wasp, a World War II aircraft carrier that was sunk by a Japanese submarine in 1942, and the Esmeralda, a Portuguese ship that was part of Vasco da Gama's fleet that sank off the coast of Oman in 1503. A notable shipwreck that Tobias explored is the SS Rosalie Moeller. The SS Rosalie Moeller was a British cargo ship that was sunk by German bombers in the Red Sea in 1941. She was built in 1910 with the original name, the Francis, and operated as a coal carrier for both Steamship Company Limited until 1931, when she was sold to Moeller Line & Company in Shanghai and renamed the Rosalie Moeller. She continued to deliver coal along the east coast of China until the outbreak of World War II, when she was recalled to Liverpool and requisitioned by the Ministry of War Transport. In August 1941, she was assigned to deliver a cargo of coal to Alexandria via the long route around Africa. She arrived at the Gulf of Suez on October 6th and anchored at Safe Anchorage H, waiting for her turn to transit the Suez Canal. However, the anchorage was not safe from the newly developed night-flying capabilities of the German Heinkel 111 bombers, which had already sunk the USS Thistlegorm 2 days earlier. On October 8th, shortly after midnight, Rosalie Moeller was hit by 2 bombs, causing a massive explosion. She sank within an hour, taking 2 crew members with her. The wreck of the Rosalie Moeller lies in deeper water than the Thistlegorm, at about 164 feet, and is less visited by divers. However, it remains well preserved and offers a challenging and rewarding dive for technical divers. The ship is intact and upright, with her masts reaching up to 59 feet from the surface. The cargo of coal is still visible in the holds, along with various items such as bottles, crockery, and tools. The wreck is also home to a variety of marine life, including lionfish, scorpionfish, batfish, barracuda, and tuna. The Rosalie Moeller is one of the most pristine and fascinating shipwrecks in the Red Sea, and a testament to the history and tragedy of war. Number 5. The Manchac Swamp. The Manchac Swamp, located about 30 miles northwest of New Orleans, is a beautiful and biodiverse wetland that attracts many visitors who want to enjoy its scenic views and wildlife. The swamp is home to countless alligators, turtles, birds, and plants, as well as a historic railroad that once connected the nearby towns of Fresnier, Ruddock, and Napton. But the Manchac Swamp also has a darker side, one that is shrouded in mystery and legend. According to local folklore, the swamp is haunted by the ghost of Julia Brown, a voodoo priestess who lived in Fresnier at the turn of the 20th century. Brown was known for her healing powers and curses, as well as for the eerie songs that she sang on her porch with her guitar. One of her most chilling lyrics was, "One day I'm gonna die and take the whole town with me." Some say that Brown's prophecy came true on September 29, 1915, when a devastating hurricane hit the area and wiped out the towns of Fresnier, Ruddock, and Napton, killing hundreds of people. The storm also destroyed the railroad, leaving the swamp isolated and abandoned. Some believe that the hurricane was caused by Brown's curse, as she died on the same day and was buried in a swamp-side grave. Ever since then, the Manchac swamp has been rumored to be haunted by the spirits of those who perished in the disaster, as well as by Brown herself. Some visitors have reported hearing moans, screams, and cries in the swamp, especially near Brown's grave. Others have claimed to see apparitions, orbs, and shadows in the murky waters. Some have even felt a cold touch or a push from an unseen force. The Manchac Swamp is a place of both beauty and horror, where nature and the supernatural coexist. It is a place that fascinates and terrifies those who dare to explore it. It is a place that holds a secret that may never be fully revealed. It is a place that is haunted by the curse of Julia Brown. Number 4. The Devil's Pool. Victoria Falls is one of the most spectacular natural wonders in the world, spanning across the Zambezi River and plunging more than 300 feet into the gorge below. But for some visitors, the awe-inspiring sight of the waterfall is not enough. They want to experience it up close and personal by swimming in a natural pool right on the edge of the precipice. Devil's Pool is a small rock pool that forms near Livingstone Island, a tiny island on the Zambian side of the falls. During the dry season from August to January, the water level drops and a natural barrier of rocks prevents the pool from being swept over the edge by the powerful current. This creates a safe and calm spot for swimmers to enjoy the stunning view of the waterfall and the rainbow that often appears in the mist. But there is a darker side to this seemingly idyllic place. According to local legend, Devil's Pool is haunted by the spirits of those who have drowned there, either by accident or otherwise. Some say that the pool is named after a devilish creature that lurks in the depths, waiting to drag unsuspecting swimmers to their doom. Others say that the pool is cursed by Ulana, a young woman who threw herself into the falls after being separated from her lover. Her anguished cries turned into the pool's torrents. Her spirit still haunts the place, pulling young men to their untimely deaths. To reach Devil's Pool, visitors have to take a boat ride from the Zambian bank of the river, then walk across the island and swim across a short stretch of the Zambezi. The guides will help them find the best spot to enter the pool and hold their hands as they approach the edge. Once in the pool, they can lie on the rocks, peer over the edge, or even pose for photos with the waterfall as the backdrop. Devil's Pool is not for the faint of heart, as it requires a certain level of fitness, courage, and the trust in the guides. There have been accidents and deaths in the past, mostly due to people venturing too far from the pool or visiting during the wrong season. Devil's Pool is a unique and unforgettable experience that offers a different perspective on Victoria Falls. It is a bucket list item for many adventure seekers who want to test their nerves and feel the rush of being on the edge of one of the world's greatest waterfalls. But it is also a place of mystery and danger, where the forces of nature and the supernatural collide. Would you want to visit the Devil's Pool? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 3. The Corryvreckan Maelstrom. The Corryvreckan Maelstrom is a permanent and powerful whirlpool off the coast of Scotland. It can produce standing waves up to 15 feet high and a roaring noise that can be heard from miles away. It's very dangerous to approach, especially when the wind and currents are strong. Many ships and boats have been wrecked or capsized by the Maelstrom, and some people have even lost their lives or gone missing there. The Maelstrom is also surrounded by legends and myths that add to its creepiness. One of the most famous stories is that of Cailleach, a sea witch or goddess that is said to use the Gulf as her cauldron or wash tub. According to Scottish folklore, she washes her long hair in the water and creates the whirlpool and the waves. She also controls the seasons and the weather, and when she's angry, she unleashes storms and floods. Some people believe that she cursed the Maelstrom and anyone who tries to cross it. Another legend tells of a brave prince who wanted to marry a princess from a nearby island. Her father agreed, but only if the prince could prove his courage by anchoring his boat in the Maelstrom for 3 nights. The prince accepted the challenge and sailed to the Gulf with a magic rope given to him by a fairy. He managed to survive the first 2 nights, but on the 3rd night, the rope broke and the boat was swallowed by the whirlpool. The prince was never seen again, and the princess died of grief. The Corryvreckan Maelstrom is a fascinating and terrifying place that has inspired many tales and legends. It is a natural wonder that showcases the power and beauty of nature, but also its danger and mystery. It is a place that attracts and repels people, and it has a history of folklore that make it even more intriguing and creepy. Number 2. Locomotive Graveyard. Off the coast of New Jersey, there is a deep-sea train graveyard that baffles historians and divers alike. Under 90 feet of water, there are 2 steam locomotives that were lost in the 1850s and remained hidden for over a century until they were accidentally discovered in 1985. The locomotives are a rare Planet-class 222T models, which were only produced for a short time and became obsolete soon after. They weigh about 15 tons each and are self-contained, meaning they have no tenders or cars attached to them. They're remarkably well preserved despite being covered in rust and barnacles. No one knows for sure how the locomotives ended up at the bottom of the ocean. There are no records of them being built, shipped, or lost. One theory is that they were being transported from Boston to the mid-Atlantic on a barge when a storm hit, and they either fell off or were pushed off to lighten the load. Another theory is that they were part of a secret military project or a smuggling operation. Whatever the case, the underwater locomotive graveyard is a haunting sight that attracts many curious and adventurous divers. The trains are surrounded by fish, crabs, and other marine life, creating a contrast between the natural and the man-made. The divers can explore the inside and outside of the locomotives and even touch the controls and wheels. They can also imagine the stories and secrets the trains hold and wonder what else lies beneath the waves. The underwater locomotive graveyard is a unique and fascinating place that offers a glimpse into the past and a challenge for the present. It's a place that is mysterious and eerie, where history and mystery collide. It is a place that is waiting to be explored and revealed. And at number 1, the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is the deepest part of the ocean, located in the western Pacific Ocean, about 125 miles east of the Mariana Islands. It is crescent-shaped and measures about 1,585 miles in length and 43 miles in width. The deepest point of the trench is called the Challenger Deep, which is more than 35,761 feet below the sea level. That is deeper than the height of Mount Everest. The Mariana Trench is a place of extreme conditions and unknown secrets. The water pressure at the bottom of the trench is more than 1,000 times the pressure at the surface, which means that anything living deep down there has adapted to survive. The temperature is also very low, ranging from 1 to 4 degrees Celsius. The trench is pitch black, as no sunlight can reach that depth. Only bioluminescent creatures can produce their own light. The Mariana Trench is also a place of mystery and exploration. Only a few people have ever ventured deep enough into the trench, and they reported seeing strange and fascinating creatures, such as giant tube worms, translucent fish, and shrimp-like amphipods. There are also many things that have not been discovered yet, as the trench is very hard to access and study. Scientists estimate that there are millions of species that live in the deep sea, many of which are still unknown to humans. The Mariana Trench is also a place of legend and folklore. Some people believe that the trench is home to mythical creatures, such as sea monsters, mermaids, or even aliens. Some people also think that the trench is a portal to another dimension or a hiding place for ancient civilizations. There are many stories and theories that try to explain the origin and nature of the trench, but none of them have been proven. The Mariana Trench is a fascinating and terrifying place that challenges our imagination and curiosity. It's a natural wonder that showcases the power and the beauty of nature, but also its danger and mystery. It is a place that attracts and repels people, and it has a history and a future that are still unknown. It is one of the most creepy and mysterious places on Earth. The Trinidad. A team of maritime historians and shipwreck hunters has made a remarkable discovery in the depths of Lake Michigan. they've located the wreck of the Trinidad, a 140-foot-long schooner that sank in 1881 while carrying a load of coal. The ship is in an amazing state of preservation, with its deckhouse, anchors, wheel, bell, and even the crew's possessions still mostly intact. The Trinidad was built in 1867 in Grand Island, New York for the Great Lakes grain trade. It would transport coal from New York to ports in Milwaukee and Chicago and return with grain from the Midwest. However, the ship was poorly maintained by its owners and suffered from decay and leaks. In 1880, it hit a reef in Lake Superior and lost part of its bottom, which was hastily repaired. On its final voyage in May 1881, the Trinidad was bound for Milwaukee with a cargo of coal. It developed a leak and began to fill with water, but the captain and the crew decided to continue on. Suddenly, the ship lurched and sank rapidly, leaving no time for the crew to save anything. The only casualty was the ship's mascot, a Newfoundland dog who was asleep next to the stove. The wreck of the Trinidad was lost for over a century, until two shipwreck enthusiasts, Brendan Baylod and Bob Jake, decided to search for it. They used historical documents and sonar technology to narrow down the possible location of the ship and finally found it in July 2023. It was about 10 miles off the shore of Algoma, Wisconsin, at a depth of 270 feet. The discovery of the Trinidad is a significant contribution to the maritime history and archaeology of Wisconsin and the Great Lakes. The ship is one of the few examples of a canaler or canal schooner, a type of vessel specially designed to pass through the Welland Canal that connected Lake Erie and Ontario. The ship also offers a rare opportunity to study the rigging, construction, and cargo of a 19th century schooner, as well as life and the culture of its crew. The Wisconsin Historical Society has praised the find as one of the most intact shipwrecks ever found in Wisconsin waters, and a very significant shipwreck. The Society plans to document and protect the site and hopes to share the story of the Trinidad with the public through exhibits and publications. The USS Johnston. The USS Johnston was a U.S. Navy Fletcher-class destroyer that fought bravely in the Battle of Leyte Gulf in 1944, the largest naval battle in history. The ship was part of a small force that faced a much larger and more powerful Japanese fleet and sacrificed itself to protect the American aircraft carriers and landing craft. The ship was hit by shells and torpedoes from the Japanese warships and sank with 186 of its 327 crew members, including its commander, Lieutenant Commander Ernest E. Evans, who was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. The wreck of the USS Johnston was lost for more than 7 decades. It was only recently discovered in 2019 by a team led by Victor Vescovo, a retired U.S. Navy officer and explorer. The ship lies at a depth of 21,180 feet, making it the deepest shipwreck ever surveyed. The team used a specially designed submersible, the limiting factor, to dive to the wreck site and film it with high-definition cameras. They returned to the site in 2021 and completed a full mapping and filming of the entire wreck, which was remarkably well preserved despite the immense water pressure and corrosion. The team captured stunning images and footage of the ship's hull, guns, torpedo tubes, propellers, and other features, as well as personal items belonging to the crew, such as helmets, boots, and jackets. The team also paid tribute to the fallen sailors by laying a wreath on the wreck and performing a ceremony of remembrance. The team shared their findings with the U.S. Navy and the relatives of the USS Johnston crew and plans to release a documentary about their expedition. The discovery of the USS Johnston is a remarkable achievement of exploration and technology, as well as a tribute to the courage and sacrifice of the U.S. Navy sailors who fought in the Battle of Leyte Gulf. The wreck is a valuable source of historical and archaeological information, as well as a war grave that deserves respect and protection. If you had the chance to explore a sunken ship, would you do it? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. The SS Cotopaxi. The SS Cotopaxi was a steamship that sailed from Charleston, South Carolina to Havana, Cuba, with a cargo of coal and a crew of 32. On November 29, 1925, the ship encountered a tropical storm near the Bermuda Triangle, a region notorious for mysterious disappearances of ships and planes. The ship sent a distress signal on December 1, 1925, reporting that it was taking on water and listing badly. After that, the ship and its crew vanished without a trace. The fate of the SS Cotopaxi remained a mystery for almost a century, fueling speculation and legends about the Bermuda Triangle. Some claim that the ship was abducted by aliens, swallowed by a giant sea monster, or transported to another dimension. The ship even appeared in the 1977 movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where it was shown in the Gobi Desert, supposedly placed there by extraterrestrials. However, in 2020, a team of shipwreck hunters and researchers announced that they had finally identified the wreck of the SS Cotopaxi, lying 35 nautical miles off the coast of St. Augustine, Florida, at a depth of 270 feet. The team used historical records, sonar scans, and underwater cameras to confirm the identity of the ship, which was previously known as the Bear Wreck by local divers and fishermen. They found that the ship was in a remarkable state of preservation, with its hull, deckhouse, anchors, wheel, bell, and even some personal items of the crew still visible. The team also discovered that the ship had not fallen prey to any paranormal phenomenon, but rather to a combination of poor maintenance, bad weather, and human error. The ship had a history of leaks and damage that had been hastily repaired before its final voyage. The ship's wooden hatch covers, which were supposed to keep the water out of the cargo hold, were rotten and ineffective. The ship's captain and crew had also ignored the warnings of the storm and continued sailing until it was too late to save the ship. The discovery of the SS Cotopaxi solved one of the longest-standing mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle and shed light on the history and culture of the 1920s. The team also paid respect to the fallen sailors by laying a wreath on the wreck and performing a ceremony of remembrance. The team shared their findings with the public through a documentary series on the Science Channel called Shipwreck Secrets. HMS Terror. The HMS Terror was a British warship that was converted into a polar exploration vessel in the 19th century. It participated in several expeditions to the Arctic and Antarctic regions, but met its tragic end during Sir John Franklin's attempt to find the Northwest Passage in 1845. The ship was originally built as a bomb vessel in 1813 and saw action in the War of 1812 against the United States. It was involved in a bombardment of Fort McHenry, which inspired the American national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. It also fought in the battles of Stonington, Fort Peter, and St. Mary's. In 1828, the ship was recommissioned for service in the Mediterranean Sea, where it was used for surveying and mapping. In 1836, it was refitted for Arctic exploration and joined Captain George Back's expedition to the Great Slave Lake and the Great Fish River. The ship endured harsh conditions as it was trapped in the ice for 10 months, but managed to return to England in 1837. In 1839, HMS Terror was assigned to Captain James Clark Ross's Antarctic expedition, along with the HMS Erebus. The two ships sailed through the Weddell Sea and discovered the Ross Sea, the Ross Ice Shelf, and the volcanoes Mount Erebus and Mount Terror, named after the ships. They also reached the highest southern latitude at the time, 78 degrees 10 minutes south. In 1845, the HMS Terror and the HMS Erebus were chosen for Sir John Franklin's expedition to find the Northwest Passage, a sea route connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Arctic archipelago. The ships were reinforced with iron plating, equipped with steam engines and propellers, and stocked with provisions and books. They also carried a library of more than 1,000 books, a hand organ, and daguerreau-type equipment. The expedition left England in May 1845 with 129 men on board. They were last seen by a whaling ship in Baffin Bay in July 1845. After that, they vanished into the unknown. Several search parties were sent to look for them, but none succeeded. The fate of the expedition remained a mystery for decades, until evidence of their ordeal was found by Inuit hunters and explorers. It was later revealed that the ships had become stuck in ice near King William Island in September of 1846 and remained there for 2 years. Franklin died in June of 1847, and the remaining crew members abandoned the ships in April of 1848, hoping to reach the mainland on foot. However, they all perished along the way, succumbing to starvation, exposure, scurvy, and cannibalism. The wrecks of the HMS Terror and the HMS Erebus were not found until the 21st century, after years of searching and research. HMS Erebus was discovered in 2014 in shallow water off the coast of King William Island. HMS Terror was found in 2016 in a bay south of the island, in remarkably well-preserved condition. The discovery of the ships shed new light on the history of polar exploration and sparked renewed interest in the story of Franklin and his men. The Endurance. The Endurance was a wooden sailing ship that carried Sir Ernest Shackleton and his crew on their ill-fated expedition to Antarctica in 1914. The ship became trapped in the pack ice of the Weddell Sea and was eventually crushed and sunk in 1915, leaving the men stranded on the ice for months. Shackleton and his men managed to survive and reach safety in one of the most remarkable feats of endurance and leadership in history. For over a century, the location of the Endurance's wreck was unknown and elusive. Many attempts to find it failed due to the harsh and unpredictable conditions of the Antarctic waters. However, in March 2022, a team of explorers and scientists announced that they had finally located and filmed the remains of the Endurance at a depth of about 10,000 feet in the Weddell Sea. The team, called Endurance 22, used a specially designed underwater drone to scan the seabed and detect the ship's signature. They then deployed cameras to capture the first images of the wreck, which showed the ship's stern, bow, and nameplate in remarkable condition. The team also documented the debris field around the wreck, which included items such as crates, barrels, and tools. The discovery of the Endurance was hailed as a major achievement and a tribute to Shackleton and his men. The wreck is now a protected historic site and monument under the Antarctic Treaty System, and no physical artifacts were removed or disturbed. The team plans to share their findings and footage with the public and the scientific community, and to continue their research on the Antarctic environment and history. The Endurance is not only a shipwreck but also a symbol of human courage, resilience, and exploration. Its discovery is a testament to the enduring fascination with and the importance of the Antarctic continent and its secrets. The Maritime Silk Road. Shipwrecks are valuable sources of historical and archaeological information as they reveal the maritime trade and cultural exchange that took place between different regions and civilizations. One of the most remarkable discoveries of shipwrecks in recent years was made near the coast of Shandong Province, China in 2011. A team of Chinese archaeologists found a cluster of 30 shipwrecks dating from the Song Dynasty to the Qing Dynasty, containing a large amount of porcelain, pottery, coins, and other artifacts. The shipwrecks were located in a shallow sea area that was part of the ancient Maritime Silk Road, a network of trade routes that connected China with Southeast Asia, India, the Middle East, and Europe. The shipwrecks reflect the diversity and richness of the goods that were transported along this route, as well as the technological and artistic achievements of the Chinese and other cultures that participated in the trade. For example, some of the porcelain items found on the shipwrecks were decorated with blue and white patterns, a distinctive style that originated in China and became popular worldwide. Some of the coins found in the shipwrecks were minted in foreign countries, such as Persia and the Ottoman Empire, indicating the economic and political relations that China had with these regions. The shipwrecks also provide clues about the causes and consequences of maritime trade, such as the natural and human factors that led to the sinking of the ships and the impact of the trade on the environment and society. Some of the shipwrecks may have been caused by storms, typhoons, or reefs, while others may have been the result of wars, piracy, or accidents. The shipwrecks also show the ecological and cultural changes that occurred due to the trade, such as the introduction of new species, crops, diseases, religions, and customs. The shipwrecks found near the China coast in 2011 are among the most important and fascinating shipwrecks ever found in the world, as they offer a glimpse into the history and culture of China and other regions that were connected by the Maritime Silk Road. They are also a testament to the human spirit of exploration, innovation, and exchange that shaped the world we live in today. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed learning about the Endurance, the Trinidad, and the other sunken vessels that reveal the secrets of the past.
From poop quotas for its citizens to punishments that can last 3 generations, here are 10 strange facts about life in North Korea. 10. The Pleasure Squad. One of the most mysterious aspects of North Korean society is the existence of the Kipumjo, which translates to Pleasure Squad. These groups of around 2,000 women are handpicked by the supreme leader, and they're split into 3 groups. One group offers massages to their patrons, another provides musical entertainment in revealing clothes, and the third group is required to offer sexual favors to high-ranking party members. While the rest of the country struggles to put food on the table, Kim Jong-un and his cronies host wild sex parties with these women, some of whom are very young. The members of the pleasure squad are usually plucked right out of school, and while their parents are rewarded handsomely, they don't hear from their children ever again. Based on reports from North Korean defectors, these girls must meet a strict criteria, including being under 5 foot, possessing a feminine voice, and most importantly, being a virgin. After spending a decade in the service of the supreme leader, these girls are usually married off to elite guards or officials. In order to keep their existence a secret from the rest of North Korean society, they're settled in the remote countryside and kept under close observation for the rest of their lives. 9. Poop quotas. North Korea's long, complicated history has put it at odds with its southern neighbor for decades. However, what you might not know is that the Hermit Kingdom relied on South Korea for some essential imports, with the most significant being fertilizer. Beginning in 2008, South Korea suspended all shipments of fertilizer into the north, creating a disastrous shortage in a country that's long suffered from food scarcity. China stepped in to fill the gap, but after the dictatorial regime closed its borders during the pandemic, fertilizer quickly started to run out. The state decided to take a creative approach to solving the problem by asking citizens to collect their own poop to use as fertilizer. Each member of North Korean society was required to send over 300 pounds of their poop within a 10-day period between the 4th and 14th of January. Anyone that worked at a state-owned factory had an even larger burden to bear, since their poop quota was an astonishing 1,100 pounds. Now, the government tends to force its citizens into doing its bidding, but in this case they decided that gentle persuasion might be a better approach. To encourage people to meet their poop quotas, the government started offering manure trading licenses in exchange. People that managed to fulfill the quota were allowed to buy and sell manure at the market, and in a nation like North Korea, that might be the best that they could hope for. 8. The 3-generation punishment policy. Certain political acts in North Korea are considered to be crimes against the state. These crimes carry a severe penalty for the culprit and their family. Any attempt to subvert the country's commitment to socialism won't just land the perpetrator in jail, but also the next 2 generations of their clan. This is a kind of kin punishment. While this policy technically falls outside of the official legal system, it's been part of the country's harsh extrajudicial practices since it was established in 1948. The system is called Yanjuaji, which translates to association system, and it's designed to ensure unquestioned loyalty to the regime's ideology. North Korean defectors have provided gruesome details of entire families being sent to labor camps, and in some cases, they face summary execution without trial. Some say that this system is based on the concept of blood guilt, which states that a political offender's rebellious nature is part of their genetic makeup. This makes any relative of counter-revolutionaries equally liable for their crimes, and the government allegedly believes that keeping the entire bloodline in jail is the only way to hold on to power. While this policy's name might make it sound like the 4th generation would finally be freed from captivity, that's not exactly the case. Reports indicate that a 4th generation simply won't come into existence, since conditions in the labor camp are too harsh to raise children in. Even if the grandchildren of the accused are able to conceive, the expecting mothers usually vanish without a trace. 7. The kidnapped director. In 1966, the future supreme leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-il, was asked with producing propaganda films for the country. As a major movie buff with around 15,000 titles in his personal collection, he understood the power of a well-produced feature and decided to kidnap the famous South Korean director Shin Sang-ok to help him out. The plot began with the kidnapping of his ex-wife, the actress Choi Eun-hee, while she was in Hong Kong. She was taken to Kim Jong-il and treated relatively well, with the heir to the Hermit Kingdom showing her films and brainwashing her with propaganda over the next 5 years. 6 months after her capture, Shin Sang-ok was kidnapped as well, and while he was treated like a king, he wasn't told about his ex-wife being nearby. He was eventually sent to jail after 2 unsuccessful getaways, but in 1983 he was finally granted release. This was when Kim Il-sung proudly reunited the director and his ex-wife at a party, revealing that he'd wanted them to get back together all along, and that he wanted Sang-ok to make movies for him. Realizing they had no other choice, the couple remarried and went on to co-direct several films of the regime. One of their productions even won an award in Czechoslovakia, and their output even included a rip-off of Godzilla called Bulgasari. The success of their films and their influence on North Korea's movie industry had earned them the trust of Kim Jong-il, who allowed them to travel the world to attend festivals and red carpet events. During one of these excursions in 1986, the couple found themselves in New York and were able to give their bodyguards the slip. They then got into a taxi, headed to the US Embassy, and rushed in with the bodyguards following right behind them. Once they entered the building, they asked for political asylum and were finally granted their freedom. They stayed married for the rest of their lives, settling in Los Angeles, where Sang-ok continued his career as a director and made films under the pseudonym Simon Sheen. 6. Mandatory confession. From the moment they turn 8 years old, North Koreans are required to confess their sins to the authorities. However, this practice isn't rooted in Christianity. Instead, it's part of the Marxist-Leninist socialism that the country follows, specifically the concept of self-criticism in that framework. When Kim Il-sung founded North Korea, he came up with 10 core principles that all citizens must follow, and they're required to confess to breaking any of these rules during the mandatory sessions. Even members of the Workers' Party of Korea have to participate, and if they miss their appointments for more than 3 months, they can be cast out of the organization and potentially declared enemies of the state. Inmates at one of North Korea's labor camps also need to offer detailed confessions on a regular basis, and if they refuse to comply, their entire work unit could be subjected to collective punishment. Apart from confessing their own misdeeds, North Koreans have to speak out on any anti-socialist behavior they've seen in others as well. These confessions are recorded and stored for future reference, so any misstep creates a permanent mark on their record. This system is a way for the government to brainwash children from a young age and encourage them to have unquestioning loyalty to the regime. 5. Nukes in the Constitution. A big part of North Korea's strategy is to develop a formidable nuclear arsenal. This has led to crippling sanctions from international organizations, but despite it all, the Hermit Kingdom has managed to create a nuclear missile that's capable of reaching other continents in 2017. Their hunger for weapons of mass destruction is so great that Kim Jong-un has amended the national constitution multiple times to include his nuclear policy. In September 2022, the country's legislative assembly wrote the right to nuclear preemptive strikes into the constitution. This means that North Korea can launch the first wave of nukes if it feels threatened. This new law also gave Kim Jong-un complete control over the nuclear arsenal, but it also left room for automated missile launches if the command and control system was compromised. Additionally, it outlawed the sharing of nuclear information with other nations, including North Korea's own allies, which raised concerns about a potential nuclear strike from the isolated country. A year after this law was passed, the constitution was amended yet again to include a section about increasing nuclear weapon production. As a result, the country's scientists are constitutionally required to upgrade the nuclear arsenal and expand it continuously. Kim Jong-un claims that this is all for self-defense, but international commentators are worried that it increases the likelihood of all-out nuclear war. What are your thoughts about North Korea's nuclear obsession? Let us know in the comments below and subscribe while you're at it. 4. North Korean basketball. After a long day of propaganda, nuclear research, and proud declarations of his country's glory, Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un likes to unwind with a bit of basketball. In fact, the dictator grew up watching the Chicago Bulls and is a lifelong fan of Michael Jordan. He's used his influence to get the likes of Dennis Rodman into the country to watch a game, and the sport is something of a national pastime for the North Korean people. However, if you find yourself in the Hermit Kingdom for a basketball game, you might have a hard time understanding what's going on. That's because the rules of the game are quite different in this part of the world, with slam dunks earning 3 points and missed free throws resulting in point deductions. This might make someone like Shaq the worst basketball player in history, considering his terrible free throw record. But if he wanted to make up for it, he might want to try scoring some 3-pointers without hitting the net. In North Korean basketball, shots like that can earn you 4 points instead of 3. And if you wait until the last 3 seconds, you'll score a whopping 8 points for every shot that enters the hoop. These bizarre rules only apply to games played on home turf. 3. Government registration for computers. Buying a computer in North Korea is arguably one of the hardest things you can do. While there are lots of computer shops in highly populated cities like Pyongyang, the government requires all computers to be registered as soon as they're purchased. However, even if you do somehow get your hands on a computer in North Korea, you won't be able to do much with it. The internet is practically non-existent in the country, with citizens instead forced to use a government-controlled intranet that apparently only has 28 sites. These websites are full of propaganda, and they mostly exist to glorify the supreme leader. Computer access is even more difficult in the nation's far-flung rural provinces, even though the government technically requires schools to train their students on how to use them. Since these institutions don't get any financial support from the state, they often resort to telling their students to collect herbs every day, which are sold to raise money for the equipment. Some North Koreans are able to sidestep these strict rules by going to the black market. But if they're caught with unregistered tech in their homes, they're treated like political criminals. That potentially means a long stint at a labor camp, and perhaps even a 3-generation-long sentence. 2. Execution for K-pop fans. North Korea tightly controls the media that its people can consume. There are only 4 channels on TV, and apart from state propaganda, citizens can only watch sports that their national teams participate in. Of course, it's impossible to completely cut the country off from outside media, and many turn to the black market to enjoy some music and TV shows from south of the border. That said, Kim Jong-un reportedly hates K-dramas and K-pop and considers them to be a harmful foreign influence. Even children that are caught watching K-dramas can receive harsh punishments, with one leaked video showing 2 teenage boys getting sentenced to 12 years hard labor for breaking this law. As if that wasn't bad enough, a human rights organization called the Transitional Justice Working Group revealed that at least 7 people have been executed in North Korea for listening to K-pop. Kim Jong-un has called the musical genre a cancer and is determined to keep it as far away from the Hermit Kingdom as possible. 1. The ghost village of Kijongdong. Approximately 2.5 miles away from the border separating North and South Korea is a village named Kijongdong that seems fairly normal at first glance. The government claims that it's home to 200 families and contains all the amenities you'd expect, including a childcare center, a hospital, and schools offering a complete education. However, if you take a closer look, you'd realize that it's all just a facade. The colorful buildings don't have any rooms on the inside or even glass in the windows. Indeed, every decision made about the village's design and layout is specifically engineered to one-up South Korea. When their southern neighbor erected an over 300-foot tall flagpole on the other side of the border, the North Korean government responded by building one that rises 500 feet above the ground. Every single bit of infrastructure serves a single purpose: to loudly announce the glory of the Hermit Kingdom, which is done through a series of loudspeakers fixed on some of the buildings. Until the 1960s, these loudspeakers encouraged farmers from the south to cross the border to live a better life. But when South Korea's economy surpassed that of the north, they started playing propaganda and patriotic music all day and night. Amid all of the buildings and the screaming loudspeakers, not a single soul can be found. In 2018, even the loudspeakers were switched off, and the ghost village has been completely silent ever since. Do you know of any other strange stories about North Korea you'd like us to make a video about? Let us know down below in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!